If I have difficulty getting videos, I have nowhere to start. Yeah. And if we're back and forth and you send officers out there to try to get a video and nobody has the ability to get it because the manager's not working right there, your case is not going to be looked at. Or cases, I can go in there, boom, the video is right there. With the new Axon integration, that stuff gets transferred straight over to evidence.com. It saves time.
You're listening to the Retail Crime Intelligence Podcast by Auror, where we share actionable insights to help you reduce crime and violence in your stores.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Today, we're going to be having our Building a Prevention Network, how retail and law enforcement are partnering to stop crime. My name is Raul Aguilar. I'm the Senior Director here at Auror for law enforcement. I'm here with my two brothers, Eric and Nick. We'll get into their introductions here in a minute. Welcome, folks. Let me go over some outlines of what we hope to accomplish today. So we're going to be defining what intelligence really looks like in the network of solving and preventing crime. We're going to go over some law enforcement challenges. We're going to talk about some successful cases. We're going to talk about how you create a culture of collaboration, what quality reporting really looks like. So obviously with you guys every single day out in the field, you can deliver some really good comments on that. The impact on the community, which is what we do this. We're both, actually I'm retired now, I keep forgetting, but we're public servants. And then the future of network prevention and law enforcement, and then some advice for LE and loss prevention professionals out there. So before I do my formal introduction and let people know where I came from, Chief, why don't we just talk a little bit about yourself, how'd you end up becoming the chief, and lead us into this conversation, sir. It's good to see you.
All right, good. Good afternoon. Thank you for having us. Good to see you too. Thank you for all of you joining us today on this webinar. So I work for the Schenectady Police Department. Schenectady is a industrial city that is about 2 hours north of New York City. I've been there my entire career, nearly 24 years. 9+ of those has been as the police chief. Before I became the chief, I worked in the detective division as a lieutenant. So that's my passion, is investigations and solving crimes. So a little bit about the city. 11 square miles, so it's a small condensed city. 69,000 residents. My department's about 168 officers, roughly 45 detectives working for the community. And solving crime is clearly one of our core missions, and particularly in Schenectady, which has a high volume of violent crime. As we're really diving into evidence-based strategies, we zeroed in on organized retail crime, the impact it has on our community, how it affects other areas throughout our city, our hotspots, and that really drive other violent crimes. So we'll talk more about that later, but I'm happy to be here and answer some questions.
We appreciate you making the time, and I think it's a soft spot in our hearts to just make the community safer. So I'm glad you dropped that bullet point now, as we'll get into how do you do that with technology, with human connection, with caring for your community. So let me turn it over to my brother, Nick. We won't go over your nicknames right now because you have a bunch of them, all positive ones, of course. Right. Why don't you tell us a bit about your life history in law enforcement and where you work, sir, and what do you do every day?
So I've been in my current position as the detective sergeant over financial crimes, which includes a lot of organized retail crime that we work, every single day. So our department is supposed to be about 300 sworn, like every other department out there. We're down. We probably are at about 210 sworn right now. And that's across all divisions. So investigations, we're down probably by 50%, which there's a lot of work to be done, and you don't have as many people to do it. So what's unique about Gainesville is we're right next to I-75. Yes, we're home to the University of Florida. We do have a lot of college students, but I-75 runs right through Gainesville. And some people call I-75 felony lane for a good reason, because you have a lot of organized groups, not just local groups, but, groups that are within Florida, plus a lot of international groups that will come to visit us. Gainesville is also home to Butler Plaza, which, from what I'm told, depending on who you speak to, it's one of it's either number 1 or number 2 in the state as far as most visited retail complex. So we have that in Gainesville. So you can imagine the different groups. You have, the Romanian quick change artists. You have Chinese nationals that do gift card fraud. You have South American theft groups. You have Chilean pickpocketers that hit us. The groups out of, and everybody knows them as I'm calling them out.
Yeah. It's the ones we all know that.
Yeah, like Flint, Michigan, they hit us. Yeah. So because of that, we work a lot. It's definitely a hard job, but we do what we can to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you being here. I know you're very busy. You're somebody who every single day gets on this platform. So I think we'll get into that a little bit later on how that's helped you not only help the Gainesville Police Department, but how you spend most of your days helping others. And I think that's where we've all formed our friendships. We never start with just how can it help our agency. It's about how we helping these other agencies, how we help retailers. I hear that coming out of your mouth all the time. Myself, just a quick intro, Raul Aguilar, again, Senior Director of Law Enforcement Partnerships here at Auror. My job is to meet with law enforcement, work with retailers, bridge that gap, break down silos, create this network effect to share information and make everybody safer. I just finished up a quick 25-and-a-half-year career with Homeland Security Investigations. Last 3 years running the national program on organized retail crime, which gave me this platform and incredible opportunity here to work with you folks. Let's define it a little bit about what we're going to be talking about. So defining intelligence network and what that is, solving and preventing crime, those are big buzzwords. We all know that the only way to do that is to document these crimes. You have to have a preventive network in place. And how do you do that? With intelligence reporting. And that's what Auror is at its core. It's retail crime intelligence. It's information that's available to be shared with law enforcement. And that's what we do every single day. The second thing that we would like to talk about here at Auror is the people, the trusted human network that comes in with that Auror platform. It's law enforcement, retailers, and community working together to address the threats and to get that information in the hands of those that need it as fast as possible through technology, through looking at the data, and through identifying these repeat offenders that we all know are impacting stores across the country and that are affecting U.S. community policing officers because you know who they are and they're causing crime, sometimes collateral crimes that have nothing to do with ORC. Our network and our platform has identified 290,000 repeat offenders, and this integrated technology, and what I'm going to finish with here is the Retail Crime Hub, how we get this evidence into evidence.com and that integration to get it to the hands of law enforcement as soon as possible is what we're going to get into today. And really to try to bridge the gap between when the evidence is captured and how it gets into the hands of law enforcement. We know that over 70% of that evidence, along with retail crime, does not get reported accurately to law enforcement because of the historical ways that we've done this. CDs, thumb drives, having to drive there. So we're really excited. And again, let me just reiterate, come visit us at the booth, get the demo. And if you're not, send those questions in and we'll make sure we'll address in those conversations with your law enforcement professionals. I always like to start these conversations with challenges. This is not easy work. We've talked about the challenges that you guys have faced in your policing careers. Let me just kick it over to you, Chief Clifford. Why don't you go over some of the challenges of dealing with real-time intelligence in its day-to-day form? What are the biggest hurdles for your police department? And how are you attacking organized retail crime or cross-jurisdictional retail crime in your area of operations, sir? So take some time to explain that.
Okay. So, intelligence sharing has always been something that's been a challenge. The old school way of patrol officer walking in, other patrol officer walking out, you exchange notes on your way out, you hand them information. It's just not sufficient in today's rapidly evolving technological savvy criminals that are out there using electronics to communicate with each other. So we have to share intelligence better. We have to find every avenue that we can in order to share that intelligence. We were really good at solving major crimes. If you committed a homicide, our detectives were right on top of that. Shootings, stabbings, we're really good at that stuff. But when you looked at my community, one of the things that we're seeing, and again, this is an old industrial community, low income community, we're losing our retail establishments, we're losing supermarkets, we're losing retail. And what's popping up are corner store bodegas that in some areas fit the need for the community, but in other areas they cause more problems. Problems of drugs being sold there, which resulted in crimes being committed there, shootings, stabbings. And what we saw on an alternative side on why the retailers were pulling out is that they were getting things stolen from them, but they weren't reporting it because we weren't responding to them. And it's a staffing issue, as Nick has already pointed out. So one of the strategies that we decided to really deploy here is, well, let's go in partnership with loss prevention officers, and let's see if we can team up with them to help solve that petty larceny problem, which sometimes was grand larceny, and use that as our leverage to focus on the major crimes that are occurring throughout the community.
Yeah. Well, couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly what we need to understand here as we're looking at what are those challenges, and I appreciate your perspective on that. Nick, how about you? I mean, you're a field investigator, so where I'll drop some nicknames. You're obviously known as the tech wizard. You've been known to solve a lot of cases across the country, maybe the Wawa Cop acronym that I've used. But in all seriousness, you do some great work. Why don't you kind of lay down the challenges of your day-to-day work, sir?
So I'll just say from my position, I've been fortunate enough to know what it was like being the detective sergeant, over my squad and reviewing all these cases prior to Auror coming into play. There was difficulty in just seeing these reports, reading these reports where everybody was unknowns, unable to make these connections between, or just to see, like, is this just a local person? Is this a traveler? You have no idea, like, how involved their criminal activity had or was before Auror. But once Auror came into play, it's almost like that platform does the work for us. It's those organized retail crime investigators that make the connections for us and build a better case. So when a case comes to us now through Auror, they have their act together. It's served to us on a silver platter. And those are the cases that get worked, because it's the ones that they have everything that we need. They have the video that we need, because that's probably one of the biggest obstacles. Take Auror out of the equation for us to try to get video, because that's the starting point. I can read a report. People can be in there. They're as unknowns. Well, I want to know who those unknowns are. And if I have difficulty getting those videos, like, I have nowhere to start. Yeah. And if we're back and forth and, you send officers out there to try to get a video and nobody has the ability to get it because the manager's not working right there, your case is not going to be looked at. Or cases, I can go in there, boom, the video is right there. With the new Axon integration, that stuff gets transferred straight over to evidence.com. It saves time.
And it frees you up for the financial cases that you're working as well,
absolutely.
right? Yeah, because how detailed are those?
Sometimes even more detailed than these organized retail crime cases. But yeah, I mean, freeing up officers, freeing up detectives' time, they can devote it to other things. Yeah. So.
Well, we're going to get into some of the work that you've done. I tease you a lot because of the friendship, but I'm very impressed on the fact that you spend your days sending investigative leads through your normal police department databases and all the enhanced access to law enforcement databases that you guys use to help those cases across the country, and how Auror is at the groundwork of some of those cases. So we'll get into those. I just want to acknowledge something that we both, or the three of us, are thinking. Like, we all have a shared mission to make this a safer community, and it's just very difficult to do all that with onesies and twosies, with phone calls, with emails. So I think you both have led the groundwork with the challenges. Let's get into some of the actual results and some of the cases so the audience can get some meat and potatoes on our conversation today. So I'll just prompt a question for you, Nick. Walk me through a fascinating case or something that has stuck through your mind in the last few years. We won't go down the road of your award-winning case from a couple years ago, because you mentioned that to me all the time. I'm kidding. We're going to get into his examples because I think they're really important. So just walk me through a couple examples, and then I'll turn it over to the chief for his.
Yes, and sorry, I forgot. Yep, 2022, I was the Florida Retail Federation's Law Enforcement Officer of the Year.
There's the mic drop.
I'm sorry, I have to throw it out there. It's one of the bullet points I forgot, but whatever, we're having fun with it.
Yes, we are.
So I remember when we were preparing for this, you were asking for cases, and I remember like, oh, I have a fantastic case, like within that week. And it was one of those, again, I'll keep it brief. Looking through our case management, the way that incident was reported to us, there was 2 males, unknown, may have had other involvement in other cases with that retailer. I knew the retailer, and I knew I had access to Auror for their cases. So as soon as I went into Auror and I saw that same event for our case, I'm like, oh my God, this is the guys that I've seen all over the platform. They'd had 5 other incidents already. And I saw that it went out of state into Georgia. I believe it was Valdosta, Georgia.
Yep.
So, me being who I am, and everybody knows what I do, I used all my cool tools. I got the nickname of the wizard because I work magic.
That's right.
So I used those tools. I ran facial recognition on these guys, was able to identify the 2 main players. I think there was 4 in their group, but 2 main players that were involved in the initial 5. Once I identified them, used my other tools, found their vehicles, checked the LPR systems, and was able to literally map out both what was on Auror and the LPR system to, like, it was almost a carbon copy of where they went So at that point, you had 2 people, 4 total, affected, 5 different agencies making these reports, which by the time I was able to secure warrants on these guys, I think they're up to 11 incidents. So
Let's be real. How long will those cases sit around in the detective files, in the leads that come in with multiple agencies looking at these? It could be months before those are.
easily. Because if it's an unknown, but like it takes, somebody like me, and there's more than me out there, to do that work, put a name to a face, and then boom, now you got momentum with an organized retail crime case.
Awesome. I know we had 2 of them. I'm going to kick it over to the chief, and then we'll come back with you to close this other one, because I think there's a synergy between you 2 that the audience needs to know about that was formed organically on solving a case. So you want to lead into it?
I'll lead into this.
Let's kick it over.
So,
once you're done, you kick it to the chief.
So I'll just talk about this one. It was kind of funny. I just met Chief in Arizona, and within a week or 2, doing my normal thing, I'm on Auror. I see through the Orca part of it, a bulletin that came out of Schenectady. So I looked at the photo that was attached to it. It was a Home Depot case. I think it was a box stuffer that was affecting their jurisdiction. So using my magic, using my special tools, I came up with a guy who happened to have mugshots down in Florida. Now he got a name to put to that face, did a little bit of extra work. What do I find? The guy's involved in multiple Home Depot box stuffing cases. I mean, everything matched up as a solid lead. I sent it back to his detective. Of course, I got to throw in there like, hey, let Chief know I helped him out.
Great work.
So,
Yeah, that was such a great case. And, my takeaway from that was the power of the platform. And, it is a tool that we're able to give our detectives, because we have to give them the resources they need to do the job. We give them that tool and we start talking about it, and they start doing the work. And then it just happens from there. Those connections happen, and we get assistance from other jurisdictions. And simply by doing that bulletin and putting it on the platform now helped solve a crime that was across 7 states.
yeah.
And that was the power of the tool. Without the tool, our officer potentially just sends that bulletin around the capital region, and nobody really IDs the guy. If you're not in Florida, you're probably not IDing him because it hadn't been sent that far. So that was a great case, and very happy to be a part of it, at least from Schenectady to Florida connection.
And you can't buy that. You have to earn it. And the way you earn it is with transparency of sharing your data. And I think what Auror also does, it makes the individual users accountable for their actions. And as much as they want to be aggressive in sharing, I always call it the uncomfortable effect, and be willing to create that coalition of the willing to do more. That's a perfect example of what happens when you do that. And who knows what other crimes, that network effect that you could have prevented because of those identifications. So you have another one that you want to talk about? Do you have one? Is there?
Yeah, just a real quick
Yes,
one. In addition to empowering our detectives, I feel like the platform has empowered loss prevention officers to do more. Because again, going back to, we never would respond to the loss prevention calls, so they stopped writing the reports. But now that they know that we're responding to them because they're put on the platform, they're empowered to do more. So we have a case that happened not too long ago where they saw somebody leave their store with goods, and they did a simple follow through the parking lot, and they saw the person go right across the street into a house. So they call our detectives, and because of the now established good working relationship, detectives come down, they look at the house, they try to make contact, they can't make contact. They go through the extra step of getting a search warrant to go into that house because they had constant visual observation of stolen goods going into it. They go in there, and it's basically a stash house for stolen goods. And there are bedrooms full of stolen goods. It's basically a shopping market for the bodegas, people that would want to buy drugs potentially. The bodegas would say, well, bring me some Tide. Yeah. And they'd go there and they'd get it off the shelf that was stolen. And those stolen goods became currency for a lot of the criminals in our community. And without having the loss prevention officers empowered to go that extra step to follow them and then report it and us respond, we would have shut down that stash house of stolen goods.
That's a great example. And I think when in my intro, we talked about documenting that intelligence, the human connection of the 3 working together, right? The community, law enforcement, retail, and then that retail crime hub discussion about how to transfer that evidence. So I think you gave all those 3 examples in that, sir. Probably the best word that I love in all this is collaboration. Partnerships is the other one. true partnerships and collaboration comes with vulnerability and doing that. How do you build that? So I'm gonna kind of prompt you into that. You are the leads guy. How do you build a culture of collaboration sharing when you're trying to build cases, you're trying to make your career? Let's say there's a young officer out there that says, no, it's mine. Break down those silos for him and her, and let me know what, from your perspective, how do you do that? Is it training? Is it technology? Give me a couple bullets on that, Nick, please.
I think for me, it's in my work ethic. I don't like to hoard information. Everybody knows I have access to a lot of great tools.
Yeah.
And part of my normal workflow each day is, just like going through my case management and going through emails, I always go through Auror just to see what comes in on that feed. And I know I'm not only helping our agency eventually, because some of those offenders may affect us eventually, but I just love helping out, whether it's even outside of Auror, helping out financial institutions, but just helping out the retailers to let them know that I'm not above you. I'm not afraid to help you out. I know we're all in this together. So it's just a matter of going on there, using my tools, and just generating leads. Because there's times to where, why let this one person that I can tell is involved in 20, 30, 40, 50 incidents, and they're still unknown? Yeah. Let me do what I can do. It could be 5 minutes worth of work. It could be 2 minutes worth of work just to help them out. And it's reciprocal, because there's times to where I may need help from somebody that may be a case that, I have a victim here in Gainesville and I need video footage from you guys. They'll remember that, and then when I ask for it, they'll drop what they're doing. And, and they've grown to be so comfortable that it's not a big deal. If they have a problematic person that I may have missed, they'll tag me on a post like, hey, and you'll see it all the time. Can you see if you can run facial recognition just to see if you can come up with a lead for this? I'll do it.
Because they've known you become a reliable piece of that network. So
absolutely.
Just a quick side story. I saw you in action during some work we did about 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago. And your interaction with the community that day, it really solidified the joking that I made about you being a good human, a good cop, a public servant. There was some interaction with somebody who was dealing with obviously a drug problem, and just really proud to call you a friend and for the years of law enforcement. You're gonna go over 30 years almost?
No, I'll be done.
Okay. You're almost to 30. Yeah. Chief, from the longer perspective, strategy, 9 years as a chief, I can't imagine the calls, the meetings, the research, the talks with your county executives, even maybe higher level in the state, and all your experience. What's your take on collaboration, sir?
Well, 9 years ago when I was promoted to chief, I took an approach for reducing crime in our city by creating partnerships. And I always looked at who's the expert in that field, and let's get them to be our partner. When it came to gang violence, I partnered with the FBI Safe Street Task Force, brought them in, asked them for expertise. So as the years have gone on, and fortunately 2 years ago in San Diego at IACP, I was introduced to Auror, and I learned, I had that aha moment that for reducing retail theft, reducing our petty larceny, which by the way is one of our Part 1 crimes that we measure monthly, we have to partner with the experts there, which is the loss prevention officers. They're the best at what they do, and we need to partner with them, make them a force multiplier for us. So it simply has become part of our long-term strategy that yes, we're going after the worst of the worst, the violent criminals, but we're also going after all crimes. And petty larceny, we found through discussions, with many discussions, leads to those bigger crimes. They're the facilitator for those violent crimes that are occurring in our community. And now, 2 years later, using the platform, we can actually provide data to show that, yes, there is a connection between organized retail crime, violent crime, and when we can shut down where those goods are being fenced, we can reduce violent crime in our community, and at the same time, by the way, reduce the impact on our community. Because by supporting loss prevention officers, and by then now reporting everything, we did see that 57% increase in reported petty larcenies connected to retail stores. And that's the true measure. That was a true impact on our community. It was that number, not the 57% reduced number, because that was our official. We were feeling better about ourselves when it was still happening. Correct. So now that we have a true measure of what's going on, we can address it. We can put the resources where they're needed. This is not only this conversation has really spiraled into our state police now, creating a task force that we're now working with them on. So it's become, this collaboration is just growing, and it will continue to grow.
Well, I can tell you from the 2 years ago when we first met you, it's feeling is mutual for your vision. And the word that you use there that stuck with me is making them a force multiplier instead of somebody that you would combat with. As we've seen sometimes across the nation, there isn't complete symbiotic relationships between law enforcement and retailers for all the reasons that we talk about. Too much crime happening, not enough resources, smaller departments, not enough LP. So I think the way you just laid it out is perfect. And we feel the same way about you. So you want to have a quick word on that?
Yeah, and just to Nick's point earlier, you're down 80 officers. Loss prevention officers are a recruiting opportunity for us. I've hired one as a police officer that was formerly a loss prevention officer for Home Depot. So I've always had my mind on, hey, you're a good candidate to be a police officer. Again, I want to stress, they're the best at what they do. They're professionals. They know how to document it. They know how to articulate it much better than a patrol officer does. So we learn from loss prevention officers also.
Kind of bleeds in a little bit now on the community impact. You touched on it a little bit. I was gonna go to you, but I'm actually gonna change it up a little bit because it feels like it's time for Nick to jump in here. Time savings, the impact on the community of this intelligence network. Give me some bullets there, and then I'm gonna chime in with my vision, having led one of the initiatives for the federal government and my time here at Auror that's kind of opened my mind to the great work that you guys do every day. So Nick, walk us through a couple and then I'll kick it back to the chief. Specifically, solving these cases faster, how has building that intelligence network for the retail partners impacted your department's overall strategy and your relationship with the community?
Okay. So as you're talking about this, the one thing that stuck out in my mind is every day I look at our status reports that patrol takes, and it looks like a majority of what our officers are responding to, taking reports on, are retail thefts. And it ties them up on that. So, having us using Auror, it frees up their time by making, better cases that we're able to identify, these suspects and build a better case, which we eventually can present to the state attorney, in order to get those warrants and get those people off the street faster so they can be spending their time doing other things instead of just constantly going to a retailer. The other thing that I think is important is because of this database, that database is golden for us. I mean, as it gets bigger and bigger, it's...
By that you mean more retailers, more cases documented, input the information into Auror, create that network effect.
Yeah, because it paints a bigger picture of your offenders. Like I said, we're all working in a silo. We don't know how serious this person is until you see that crossing between different retailers. So we're like, okay, this isn't just a one-time incident. This is somebody that is affecting multiple retailers. Like, we need to get this person off the street. Yeah. So because it's taking up officers' time. They're responding to that retailer. They should be out patrolling neighborhoods, dealing with much bigger things.
Yeah, that's great. And I think as we integrate our persons of interest list, vehicle of interest list, integrated technology like this amazing retail crime hub, that will paint that picture a little bit easier for your leadership as well. I'm assuming your chain of command allows you to do what you do every single day because of the results that you're producing for the community?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Great. Just a quick point for me on the topic, because I get to live it vicariously through you folks and through my friends in law enforcement that are in this fight, and the retailers that are investigating these cases every single day, which, by the way, I always take a moment to give them credit. Like you said, Chief, this is their life's work. They're doing surveillance. They're documenting everything so they can give it to a law enforcement officer so they can get prosecuted. What we see here at Auror is that repeat offender effect is probably the bread and butter. The ability to identify those 290,000 plus repeat offenders. And if they're sitting there for the taking to share, to give it to law enforcement, to deconflict in these meetings, to get them identified and off the streets as soon as possible, to help solve potential larger crimes that lead into retail crime. Drug cases, vehicle case theft cases, gun charges, a variety of others. I think it's for me, that's what a network and community engagement effect is, as I like to remind people. It's easy to say that I shared the information and not follow up, or it allows you to monitor that on a daily basis if you're obsessive compulsive like my brother here, or if you're just a detective or a law enforcement officer who's using it as a weekly check-in. It's incredibly important. We're running down to the last 10 minutes. I want to talk about the future of where we go from here. The title is Future of Networks, like Prevention and Law Enforcement. So let me kick it over to the Chief. Chief, let me ask you a quick question. What excites you about the future of this growing network effect, of how more retailers and law enforcement can join this movement? You might have touched on it a little bit, but you want to give us a little bit more about how beneficial it is and where we're going in the future with technology?
Yeah, I'll just go back to the point of the fact that it's an intelligence gathering platform, and that is so powerful in the work that we do on many different levels, whether it's going after violent crime or just identifying who in our community are committing crimes. I even see a future, and this might actually happen like very soon with us. It's already happening on a small level, but at a higher level of, let's just identify people who are stealing food because they need it and connect our resources to them so they don't have to steal it, so they'll know where to get the food. So it's not just that we're going after the worst of the worst. We're taking away the impact on our community, which is forcing businesses to close. And we know that we want thriving communities so that everybody lives in a community that they're proud of. And you have to have retail establishments for it. If they're boarded up buildings, it's the broken windows theory that just contributes to crime. And so I'm excited that this is an intelligence platform that's going to empower our officers just to do a better job serving our community.
I love that you addressed that. Unfortunately, part of what everybody deals with in this threat is that other part that maybe they're stealing to feed their families, or they're doing something that isn't necessarily tied to a bigger network. And the fact that it's documented in Auror and you can decipher and prioritize and adequately adjust your investigative strategies with your community leaders, that's a great point, Chief. Thank you for bringing that up. My brother Nick, what do you got for me on the future of law enforcement? This is not you sitting at home identifying databases and being a wizard, but actually it is. Give me where are we going?
That probably is. I see amazing results with where it is right now. And when I think of the future, I could only imagine, if other retailers got on board, more police departments got on board, even like federal agencies. And what makes me think about that is I've seen the offenders on there that when you look at their history, which is wonderful as far as like how it just paints this picture to where, my God, this person's involved in like 280 different incidents and their total loss is like over $1 million. To me, that should be sending red flags out to like, I think a federal person should step in.
You looking at me like we need to do a better job or what?
But I'm just saying, like, for everybody to have access to it, and if retailers, and a lot of times, these offenders are not brand specific, they'll cross over. So if they're hitting Ulta, they may hit Sephora. If they're hitting Home Depot, they're probably going to hit Lowe's. So if these retailers are willing to share with one another, or if not that, bring law enforcement in there, let that law enforcement person be that hub that can like make those connections for them, and it's, to me, the ultimate, I know I'm the leads guy. The ultimate is every single person that comes in there, it's solved before it's even reported. Like, you will not see unknown on a person's name again. They'll always be known.
Because somebody knows who that person is.
Oh, absolutely.
It's either on your side that you may not know, but it has to be
somewhere,
conflicted.
somebody knows who that person
Correct.
is.
It's got to be shared.
It's a matter of that information getting to the right person that knows that information.
I like that you brought up the international nexus, and was the primary reason why my former federal agency joined the fight. In the last 3 to 5 years, we've seen a movement of more federal agencies joining the fight. It's going to take that collective, united Avengers team effect, because we can't do this alone. And I think as more and more agencies are getting on it and sharing that information on Auror, the better it's going to be for that community engagement, the better it's going to be for sharing those leads and building that relationship from the ground level up to the Fed. And that takes nothing away from the great investigators at the state level. As many of those can get on there as well, the better, because then you start identifying those unknowns and create an opportunity to share that information as soon as possible. We're going to finish up here. I always say, like, what could we leave the audience with? What are the experiences that you folks bring to the table? I'll leave with my parting thoughts, but I want to tee it back up to you as a law enforcement leader. If the audience wants to build a true prevention network in their jurisdiction, let's say there's a young Nick Ferrara out in the middle of the United States. He's just got promoted. He's property crimes, maybe CID, and he's got the same internal fortitude to do more. What advice would you give them? What are the first steps that they should take And what about the LP leaders? So start with LE and then go to the LP leaders. What advice would you have for them?
I think I've hit on these points more than once during this conversation, but for law enforcement, we're short-staffed. You need any tool you can to be a force multiplier. And like I said, if you can free up an officer's time, have them use or have them be proficient in it. Maybe not the road officer, maybe an officer that works a retail district. They should get familiar with it so they know who to look for. And as far as like somebody like me, whether it's just a detective that works ORC cases or a supervisor over it, you need to be able to be proficient in it in order to just expedite or make the workflow more efficient to make better cases.
And then from the LP side, you work with these folks every day. I mean, you don't win a case without being fully transparent with these individuals working these cases. So go back to that time. How'd you build that case? Just give me, what are the vignettes you want to leave for the LP side?
Really for the LPs, you have to invest in technology for one thing. You have to have good cameras. That's really the start. You have to be able to get a good picture of this person so we know exactly what they look like, because then we have those tools.
Cameras, document the incident.
Vehicles, all the information, tattoo descriptions, anything. They use a reward card. So make a better case to present to us. Because I tell you what, things that come from Auror, those are silver platter cases. Those are the ones that are going to get looked at first and the ones that are going to get solved first.
Perfect. Could not said it better. Chief, I'll let you finish out and then I'll just leave with some thoughts. From your perspective, some advice for other chiefs, lieutenants that are going up to become chiefs, captains, or your executive leaders that own those companies up there that you deal with every day, the LP side. What's your thoughts on that, sir? What advice would you give them?
And my advice is you have to embrace technology. But first and foremost, what we do as police officers is we solve problems. So when there's a problem in the community, you have to put your best foot forward and solve it. I found that using the intelligence cycle is the way to do that. Very similar to the scientific method, but when there's a problem, you have to see what information you know, what information is out there, what data. You have to analyze it. You have to create that actionable product and then disseminate it, and then see if it solved that problem. And if it didn't, then you do it all over again. We do that all the time with homicide investigations, with any investigation, but apply that to any problem in your community. And through that process, you will come to the core of what's causing it or contributing to it and help to be able to solve them. And using technology is the fastest way to get that done.
It's great.
Yeah.
I'll give a couple parting thoughts for the audience. It takes a commitment to want to do more. I'll reiterate that. We proved it in the Federal Law Enforcement Agency, Homeland Security Investigations, where I work. We were able to do it. There are other big agencies and state agencies making some incredible strides in building task forces. There are committed LP professionals every single day building these cases across the country. It starts with documenting, getting that intelligence, like you said, the human effect, having people working with people, being uncomfortable. Yes, go and bother a police officer at these community engagement meetings. Ask them questions about the targets of investigation that you have as a retailer. Require them to give you an answer. If you don't get an answer from LE, go try another law enforcement agency. Somebody probably has something on your suspect and who's impacting your community. And at the end, embrace what we're here all to talk about. This incredible partnership on the Retail Crime Hub and the future of crime intelligence, how quickly we can share that evidence, get it into the hands of law enforcement, help them paint that picture of the full network, and stop those cases that start at some point, Nick, from $100 theft to $1 million. I've seen those events in Auror, and it kind of hurts you in the stomach. That hasn't been put away yet. That case hasn't been prosecuted yet and moved on because it's hitting city after city after city. And I think as we build that network effect, as people get more familiar with the Retail Crime Hub, as we figure out how we save officers more time to do other things besides addressing retail crime, maybe helping solve drugs, murder cases, that it frees you up when you use this new process to get that evidence transferred easily through evidence.com. And then you're just overall making the community safer. I'll part with some thank yous. I really appreciate your brotherhood, your friendship, and your commitment to working these engagements every single day in your individual police departments. And also the fact that you take time out of your day to come here and meet us in the Auror, beautiful office, by the way, here in Denver. It's been an absolute pleasure. We hope to do more of these as we progress with our integration. Everybody be safe. And once again, I just want to say thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Retail Crime Intelligence Podcast by Auror. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on your favorite podcast app.